MMA Rants and Raves, UFC 123, Matt Hughes versus BJ Penn. Guys, wow. Wow. You know, I don't know if a wow is likely, but a lot is built into this wow. I mean, 21-second knockout. I mean, especially after what these two have been through, who they are, what they've done in their careers. It's just extraordinary. And I want to make a point here. Like I said, the main thing built into this, wow. First of all, one of the fastest knockouts in UFC history. And like I said, it's not a nobody facing a nobody, just the opposite. You know, some of the greatest legends in mixed martial arts history faced off here. And for something like this to happen, it was just absolutely crazy. And it sure happened. I was rubbing my eyes a bit, but it happened. And I want to bring something in, and it's kind of scientific, and I promise, guys, I'll make it painless. There's something called Newton's law of motion. And basically what it means is that an object that is set in motion tends to stay in motion unless there is an opposite effect causing it to go in another direction. Now, if you look at these two fighters and see what they've done, Newton's law really takes effect here. And they were going in two different directions, completely 180, okay? Two different directions. You have a guy like Matt Hughes, okay? He's been out a long time. He comes back, defeats a great fighter, all right? Former champion in Matt Hughes. Then he faces one of the greatest jiu-jitsu legends. I mean, one of the innovators of jiu-jitsu in Renzo Gracie. Dominates Renzo Gracie. And then he takes on a monster like Almeida. Almeida is a guy who defeated Nate Marquardt at middleweight. All right? And he rocks this guy with a punch, decks him, and then chokes him out in a very unorthodox position. So if you look at the momentum, it's not just the fact that he was on a 3-fight winning streak. Every fight he was finishing quicker and quicker. So he was getting stronger and stronger. The momentum was building. Now, if you take Newton's law, it's a tangible law. It's about an object set in motion. Now, even though a fighter with momentum, it's more of an intangible, it's kind of comparable in a way. Because how many times you see it? You see in basketball, guy gets on a streak. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 shots in a row, then 10 shots in a row. Just keeps on hitting him. Right? Baseball player, the home runs, they just seem to come in bunches. Fighters, they start to win fights, many fights in a row, and they get better and better. It's momentum. Momentum shifts. All right? And let me tell you something. Matt Hughes was just getting better and better. And this was later in his career, and it seemed like, you know, he was really rising to the top. He was getting better and better. And then on the other hand, you talk about BJ Penn, complete 180, just the opposite. Here's a guy, and it just seemed that, you know, he was a guy that couldn't be beat. He was one of these guys, like he was the Anderson Silva and GSP of his respective division. He was just too good, too well-rounded, too intelligent as a fighter, too experienced, too quick to give anybody a chance. You know, he was just so tough at that weight class, so solid, so hard to beat. It just seemed that nobody can beat this guy. His real decisive victory at lightweight, the last one he's had, was against Diego Sanchez. Look what Diego Sanchez just did. Comes up in welterweight. I mean, this guy's fighting monsters. I mean, you know, and he comes up with a decisive victory, dominant performance. Basically, you know, dominated Diego Sanchez. Diego Sanchez looked like he had a hole in his head at the end of that fight. I mean, that's how hard this guy hits. That's how dangerous his striking is. Not to mention all the other things he brings to the table. Then he faces a guy like Frankie Edgar, right? The first fight was very close. But the fact that it was very close made you wonder, wow, this guy really fought hard, you know, defeated BJ Penn. I mean, the unthinkable happened, defeated BJ Penn, became the lightweight champion. Was very close, of course. They said, no, can't be, it's got to be a fluke. Some people were saying, got to be a fluke. Fights him again, this time it was more decisive. Sure was no fluke. Edgar won much more decisively, got big takedowns, something that I can't remember any lightweight being able to do. His takedown defense is so legendary, especially against lightweights. got some decisive takedowns. I mean, it's just basically really too quick for him. I mean, he just decisively won that fight by decision. Let me tell you something. After that, mixed martial arts community can be very unforgiving. There was talk of him retiring, even being cut. Imagine BJ Penn having to be cut. A guy on his status. A guy who's done what he's done. It was just unbelievable to hear. And, you know, just like that, they're talking about that kind of stuff. So talk about declines. I mean, you couldn't decline more than that. I mean, I hate to say it, it was like rock bottom. So you look at the two fighters, you know, you have Matt Hughes and BJ Penn going in two completely different directions. Now, usually when that happens, who do you pick to win a fight? You pick the guy who's on the rise to win the fight. I mean, how many times do you see it? Look at mixed martial arts. You see guys winning fights in a row. They just continue to keep winning until something happens, right? But they continue to win. They put streaks together. And the ones that lose continue to decline. And that's usually what happens more often than not. But here you have an exponential increase and kind of an exponential decrease in momentum. And they both came into this fight, especially BJ Penn, you know, and then he's moving up to welterweight now. So that's another question mark to add to the decline. So it was really like an unknown factor. We didn't know what was going to happen here. And then you have to, of course, consider the history between these two. That's something else you throw in. And my goodness, look what happens in this fight. I mean, guys, that is just amazing. I mean, I've never seen before. Like I said, you know, the point of all this is with the momentum of these two and what they've done, I've never seen something like this happen. Like I said, Newton's law. Until something opposite happens. And something sure opposite happened. It was a force in the other direction. A knockout, 21 seconds, which propelled this fighter to do something else. So it's certainly looking good for BJ Penn if you look at Newton's law, of course. So it's, you know, it's really remarkable though, because we haven't seen something like this in this type of direction happen when you have two fighters going in these directions. So it's the first time I've seen it. So it's quite remarkable. In a way, a history-making moment. Well, in many cases. So, you know, it's really, really incredible. And, you know, a guy like BJ Penn, you know, as far as his future, of course, you know, this is really a decisive, really important victory for him for many reasons. Not because of the things that were said after the two Edgar fights and the question marks that were there. And the point is that now BJ Penn, the way I see it, has a real legitimate goal here. You know, he's been welterweight champ. He's been lightweight champ. And when he was a lightweight, you know, where's the goals? No more goals. He's the greatest lightweight champ to ever live. There's no more goals to achieve anymore. Now he can possibly, you know, go for another goal, get that title back. I mean, this guy's a monster at 31 years old, I can tell you. You know, he's in that pound-for-pound category. You could talk about Jose Aldo, right? BJ Penn moved up to another weight class and won the title from a very, very tough guy, especially then. Okay? So, you know, he's right here with this kind of victory. Like I said, Newton's law, with this momentum coming in here, with this kind of performance, right? And now he's got a real goal, especially going from such a decline to such a high. I mean, you talk about confidence, that's another thing on his side. And like I said, you know, he defeated, you know, many welterweights, some that moved down to lightweight. So you can call them welterweights, you know, and, you know, got the championship too. So, you know, he is a really talented fighter. He's a guy that fought Lyoto Machida. It's a light heavyweight. He's one of those monsters that can compete in open weight classes. I mean, he's got really heavy hands, quick, hard striking. I mean, he's quick. He's got this amazing flexibility with his limbs, which makes him very dangerous, especially in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When you have flexibility, that's about flexibility. It's about putting your opponent in awkward positions, you know, turning yourself and the other guy into a pretzel and just forcing them to tap. There's nothing else that you can do. Even in the second Matt Hughes fight, the one he lost, he had Matt Hughes, you know, close to being choked out. So, you know, this guy is a monster. I mean, he can really beat just about anybody when he's on top of his game. So, you know, this fight was really an important fight for him, the way he won. And the way I see it, you know, there are real goals for BJ Penn right now to achieve, as opposed to goals that he had when he was fighting as a lightweight. So, you know, it was really interesting and quite amazing how the fight ended. I'd like to know what you thought about the fight, BJ Penn's as well as Matt Hughes' future. Please leave your comments below the video, rate this video and subscribe, and thank you for tuning in.